Hey friends, it's Becky L McCoy, and this is Sucker Punched. Welcome to the super special second episode of this week. You get 2 episodes this week with Thanksgiving next week, and I really thought that you'd want to get this one into your ears before one of the big holidays of these next couple months. I am talking with Becky Kiser. She's the founder and owner of Sacred Holidays, and their mission is just to help you recapture the holidays being special. Sacred just means set apart. And how can we make the holidays special without like losing our minds or going so crazy that we ruin relationships and all the things that can happen around the holidays. So you're really going to love this episode. I continue to process what burnout looks like for me. And I have learned a lot as a single parent about what burnout looks like. But I recognize that maybe I've been forced to learn a lot of these lessons because I'm parenting on my own, but really they're lessons that apply to anyone who struggles with burnout. So I would love to share those thoughts with you, and you can find them over on the blog, beckylmccoy.com. And the piece is called What You Need to Know About Burnout from a Single Parent. And I really hope that that's encouraging to you. So I am talking with Becky today about burnout and the holidays and just not learning to reset our expectations so that the holidays don't come with disappointment and discouragement and it feeling like it's a rat race. So, yeah, it's a great conversation, and here it is. Today is a super special episode in the Burnout series. I'm here with Becky Kiser, and she just released this book called Sacred Holidays, and it is exactly about burnout and the holidays. So welcome, Becky.
Thank you, Becky. It's so fun to be the Becky. It's the Becky show today.
I know. So fun.
It's fun.
So we're just going to jump right in because this is something that so many people struggle with, wanting the holidays to be this like super special, meaningful, magical time. And then they just burn out and end up hating every minute of it.
Every minute, everyone, everything.
Right. Exactly. So I think as we start to talk about this, I think there are 2 things about your book that stand out to me, and I want so I think that's where we'll start talking. Okay. The first is that you say we don't have to believe the lie that spiritual means impractical, that in order to make holidays have spiritual significance, it's like that's impossible.
Right.
And then the other thing you say about this book is meant to be read in stages. Like this is not sit down, read the whole book, and then when Christmas comes around, hope that you remember something.
Yeah, because ain't nobody got time to read an entire book anymore either. That's hard to do.
So tell us more about how this book, well, kind of how you came to write this book and why it's so important, and then also it's just so practical.
Yeah. So how I came to write the book, it was exactly what you just described. That was me. I felt trapped in the trapped is like maybe too dramatic of a word, but we couldn't be dramatic amongst girls. I felt overwhelmed by them. Like I loved them. I wanted them to be magical and whimsy and fun and all the things. And then somehow, even though there were so many parts I loved so much, I still found myself wanting more, like being disappointed in myself, being disappointed in other people, being disappointed in the overall experience, feeling shameful that I had disengaged from Christ during so many of the holidays are meant to be celebrating Him. So there was just like a lot of like regret and sometimes shame associated with and irritation associated with all the
Yeah.
holidays. And so about 5 years ago is when I stepped in and said, okay, I need a do over. I need a reset button. And I started really diving into Advent and Lent, which is the the days leading up to Christmas and the days leading up to Easter, and
Mhm.
try to just find a way to make those more focused for myself personally before I even try to trickle that into my family. So it started there, and that led to writing Advent and Lent Bible studies, which led to starting a ministry called Sacred Holidays, which then from there we started doing. It's like, okay, we don't, Christmas and Easter don't need to be the only holidays where we're intentional in loving God and loving others.
Mhm.
We all celebrate Valentine's Day and birthdays and summer and Halloween and Thanksgiving and New Year's and all the other days. So, how can we make those sacred, which just means holy, all about Jesus, and set apart? More intentional. And so that's when I got together with Lifeway about a year ago. Is actually October this time last year. And we were talking through another book, and then they came to me and said, you know what we need so much right now, though? We really need a holiday book. Have you ever considered
Mm.
writing a book about the holidays? And what they didn't know is I was just starting my outline for a book like this, because
Wow.
I found that when each holiday would come up, I'd scroll back to, okay, what was that email I sent for Thanksgiving? And what was that thing I posted last Halloween? And
Mm.
I wanted a resource where it was just all in one place. Like, I'm not great at Pinterest and keeping my boards, or like I get a little overwhelmed by all the like
Yeah,
pins and the
sure.
scrolling and the things. And I wanted a resource where all the holidays were in one place, where I could find, okay, what is Halloween actually about? Why do we celebrate Valentine's Day? So tiny historical context, and then a whole bunch of ideas. And so it's like you
Mhm.
had just said, we have, so sacred means holy and set apart. So we have a bunch of ideas that are holy. So specifically, will engage your heart around the things of Jesus and worshiping Him and connecting to Him. But then there's a whole list of ideas that are simply set apart, that are intentional. So it's like what you had just reference to of, I believe all the things that aren't necessarily spiritually intentional are still significantly spiritual and meaningful. So for example, Halloween just happened. Well, there was nothing intently spiritual about gathering with my neighbors and my friends to paint pumpkins together or carving pumpkins, but that community, that connection, instead of being around the TV or running errands all over the place, that was spiritual in and of itself, even though it wasn't overtly spiritual. So that's what we encourage women to do, is we want to pursue Christ and the things of Christ and the way of Jesus, but we also want to be intentional and embrace all those whimsy and those butterfly feelings that you got as a kid. We want to help women not just resurrect those when they have young children, but all throughout, regardless of season, regardless of circumstance, regardless if you feel burnout or not. How can you find this whimsy again that is both rooted in Jesus and like established in loving others?
Yeah, I love that, and I especially love the idea that for something to be sacred or holy, that doesn't mean, like, you're going to church every
Right.
day during
Yes,
Advent,
yes,
like,
yes, yes.
because that's I mean, if you have like, I have a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, like, that is
Yeah,
impractical.
right.
Um, but that maybe you're gonna learn something new about God during the season
Yeah.
of Advent,
Mhm.
but like you said, gathering around a table with your friends or your family at Thanksgiving can be just as holy
Totally.
as anything else because that can be really special time, not
Yeah.
because your table looks perfect and
Right.
everybody has a seating card and there's a seating chart and like, like you
Yeah,
catered the whole thing,
yeah,
but
right.
just because you can be intentional about like, what are you thankful for?
Yeah.
Or so since Thanksgiving is next week,
Right. Yeah. Yes.
um, what are what are some of your favorite ways to make Thanksgiving special? Maybe if somebody is feeling really overwhelmed, they
Mhm.
don't have a ton of time
Right.
to create or do anything. The budget is limited.
Right.
Um, and they're afraid that if they try and do anything differently, it's just going to be disappointing and they're going to
Yeah.
feel burned out like every other
Yes.
year.
Yes. Okay, great question. We have with my husband, I call him Dave Ramsey Jr. So we're always like on a tight budget, no matter how we actually are. So a few really simple ways that you can make the Thanksgiving day. I'll do three really simple ways to make the Thanksgiving day more meaningful. The first one for me, it's prepping realistic expectations before the day's even there. So I
Mhm.
have actually an entire chapter in the book called Realistic Expectations that's in part 3 of the book, where we deal with a lot of common struggles. And I had a counselor tell me years ago, Becky, you can only expect from others what they're able to offer you. And I have really high expectations for myself and others. Like I'm a 150 percenter or a 5 percenter. Like I do
Yep.
things in extremes, and I can put that on other people too. Like
Mhm.
I know the potential they hold as a human, and so I expect them to live that, which
Yeah.
isn't really fair of them, even if maybe quote unquote they should be differently or whatever. So I sit down before I'm around extended family, and I kind of list out different people, and I just say, what can I expect them to offer me in this relationship? What can I expect myself to
Mhm.
offer them? And then I don't go into it feeling disappointed, but I expect them to be who what consistency has told me. And then I pray over the list too, and just I ask for faith. I ask for God to grow relationships that need growing, that He would heal relationships that need healing, that He'd bring joy and laughter in relationships that maybe feel disconnected. And so that's sitting down to develop realistic expectations before Thanksgiving. And really, I do it pretty much any holiday or time when there's a large gathering of people. That's
Mhm.
been super practical and helpful, and it's totally free. I just saved you the counselor copay on that one that I did for you. The other, like, super practical, also very free, is I think cell phones. We do. I A few years ago, I implemented. I looked up and just noticed everyone who was over the age of 16 had their phone constantly, just
Mm.
quickly checking a football score or scrolling Facebook to see other people's cute Thanksgiving Day pictures, or maybe just trying to get lost in an article so they didn't have to have conversations. And so I implemented a phone jail, and I give nobody a choice about it. And I made a little sign. I folded like a napkin or a piece of paper in half, and I wrote on there, phones in jail. You can only take it out to take a picture, then you have to put it back.
Mm.
And so my family like loves this now, but the first year it was funny because they were actually uncomfortable, and I had
I'm
several
sure.
tell me like I got the itch. I felt like I had the twitches during
Mhm.
Thanksgiving. And but doing that simple act is going to help lift your heads up and force you to be more engaged than you would have otherwise.
Sure.
Um, and then last but not least, like another, and I think I haven't mentioned in the book, but one of the things that we did a couple years ago is I emailed all of our family who was going to be at Thanksgiving, and I made a list of all the names of people that would be there. And I said, reply back with a word, a phrase, or a paragraph of what you love or see in that person. And so then I had my girls, and I printed off a picture of a turkey on the computer, and I had my girls color the turkey, and we printed off a picture of their face from the computer. I mean, so like I've already told y'all, I'm not Pinterest. This, like, it could have been done really, really well, but again, realistic expectations. I'm not the craft mom, even though I'd love to be. So it was
Yeah.
a print off turkey coloring sheet that was free to print off from the computer. And I printed off a picture. It was probably their Facebook profile picture, put it on
Mhm.
the turkey's head. And then my girls just colored the turkey. And on the back, I wrote down all the responses I got back from people that said
Mm.
what they have. And when I go to my dad and my stepmom's house, they still 3 years later have those turkeys as their placement at their table.
That's so
My
cool.
Yeah, my grandparents still pull them out. We pull ours out every October, November. And my girls are reading it now that they can read. They can read the things that family said about them 3 years ago.
Mhm.
So those are all, and that's just a lot of what's in the book. I we list out ideas, but then there's also space that you've probably seen, Becky, where you can journal your own ideas. It's saying I've collected some ideas that are holy and set apart, and you put them in there. Or you're
Mhm.
like, this was nothing holy or set apart about it. I never want to do that again. And then there's
Yeah.
space to record in the book too of, hey, this didn't work for me, so I'm going to stop doing that. And what we want this book to be is a true resource that you go back to year after year after year. And it almost becomes like your grandmother's recipe cards, where it just gets better with time as you try ideas that we give you, or as you try ideas that your friends give you and you record it in the book, and then you tweak it year after year after year.
Mhm.
So those are my top 3 ideas that I would encourage women to try.
Those are great, and Thanksgiving is not that far away, but
No.
it's plenty of time away that you can still do these.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so Christmas.
Yeah.
This is totally the big burnout holiday. Everybody feels like they don't have enough time or money or
Right.
anything to make it the perfect holiday. So,
Yeah.
what before you started really being intentional about the
Yeah.
holidays, what did Christmas look like for you emotionally?
That is such a great question. Um That's a really good question, Becky. I think for me, I've already shared my expectations are always 150%. So
Mhm.
I want it to be big and beautiful, and I'd go into it so expectant each year. I feel like God's gifted me and cursed me with a terrible memory. So I don't remember sometimes the pains of the prior years. So I can walk
Mhm.
into each new season like, oh, this is going to be awesome. So I really feel like I approach it each time expectant and hopeful. And then over the course of time, especially once we started having kids, like what all the gifts and what do we do about the gifts? And as we're working through budgets, but we both come from divorced homes, there's just so many people to buy things for. And
Mhm.
then enter into all the parties. I mean, all the parties. There's just so many different things. So there was that component of just feeling overwhelmed. And I remember the year before I wrote our first Advent study for Sacred Holidays, standing at the Christmas Eve service, holding my candle at my mother in law's church, singing Silent Night, and just like tears strolling down my face, and just realizing I have totally missed him. Like, I have totally missed him. I bought into that lie that so many women believe of, take it easy during the holidays. Like, you don't have to spend time with the Lord every day, or don't feel like you have to do a Bible study. Like, give yourself grace during this crazy busy season. And I had given
Mm.
myself a cop out. I hadn't given myself grace at all. And so, really, before I started living intentionally during the Advent season, it was a mix of like whimsical and fun, and then progressively got harder with little bumps of high moments. But for the
Mm.
most part, I ended the holiday having spent more than we had agreed upon, having been busier than I had liked, having missed. I feel like that those intentional moments of just soaking in the moment, and I definitely not connected with celebrating Jesus. So that's where I was 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you? Is it same? Do you feel like you struggle in the same way?
Um, Not too much.
Okay.
I I don't really remember, like so my husband passed away 4 years ago, right
Yeah.
after Christmas.
Yeah.
And that Christmas, he was really ill, and I
Okay.
was really pregnant,
Yeah.
and, and we were just so aware of our limitations
Yeah.
that, like, we didn't go to the Christmas Eve service. There are so many things that we usually would have done that we just didn't do because we couldn't.
Yeah.
And I think that because I was forced to reset my expectations,
Right.
um, it was kinda like, "Oh, this was really nice."
Yeah. Yeah.
And, like, let's do this every year.
Right.
And so the next year was our first Christmas without him,
Right.
and I really my son was 3 by then, so it was like that first Christmas where he
Yeah.
was really excited.
Yeah. Yes.
So it was kind of like, "Okay, what are the things that will make it special for him? Let's
Yeah.
make sure we do a couple of those things. What do I feel like I really need to do
Yeah.
for it to be special for me?" And that's it. That's all we're doing.
That's
Um,
so good.
and it's been really freeing every year
Yeah.
since then to just be like, "Yeah, I don't feel like doing that this year."
Yeah.
And so we're not.
Yeah.
And, like, even, Halloween this year
Yeah.
is, it's my son's birthday the day before Halloween. my dad passed away on Halloween, and I was gone the whole weekend before for a conference.
Wow.
And so I said to my kids, like, sorry, kids,
Yeah.
you have no new costumes this year.
Yes.
My mom said she'd take them trick-or-treating. So I said, there's the dress up bin. Go
Yeah.
find something.
Yes. Yes.
And that was okay for this year.
Yeah.
And I'm just learning that it doesn't mean like it's not like you go like, Christmas Vacation Clark Griswold,
Right.
or you skip Christmas entirely. Like
Yeah.
there's this whole spectrum, and you get to figure out where you sit this year, and next year will be different.
Yes. Girl, I feel like so many people listening today are gonna have so much freedom found from that, of that choosing to get up, and like you would have every right to just be like, I'm canceling all of this. And no one would have blamed you. And maybe for some people they need to do that for a year or season.
Sure.
But for you to allow a trial to put things in a right perspective, that to me, that's such a part of that realistic expectation of saying, listen, this holds everything in weight now. Like the scale is now balanced with reality. And I don't need to go do all. I have nothing to prove. Like I'm not trying to earn anything. And it's to find that intentional meaning in life. It's so beautiful. That's so good.
Yeah. So what does Christmas look like for you now?
So for like the religious, like the more spiritual component, that time with the Lord during it. So we do Advent studies through the ministry Sacred Holidays, not the book. So going through the Advent study, a lot of times I'll do that with a group of either close friends, or I've hosted groups in my home before going through it. And there's just this, instead of going to a lot of Christmas parties, we limit what we say yes to. And so I'm personally going through scripture and prayer, and there's all kinds of different prompts throughout the study to engage my heart in celebrating Christ. And that simple act, Becky, of saying, I'm going to commit to study, which we tell our ladies all the time with a friend, and like, hey, we know this is the worst time to sign up to do a Bible study during the holidays. It seems like the craziest time, but adding in the community and the connection through it helps women stay with it, to have more consistent. So we have over 100 groups sign up all over the US of women. It's my personal hope that there's a group in every city of women just saying, I'm going to choose this. I'm going to choose to focus on celebrating who Christ is, celebrating this story during Christmas, so that my heart is connected to that more than it's connected to the things I think I should do.
That's so great.
Yeah. So that to me is like the biggest game changer. It started with Bible study, and then it's kind of slowly morphed into other traditions, like doing Advent candles was something I added in the next year, of just focusing on the light who has come. And a lot of us have seen that done in our churches, but we don't practice it within our homes. And that now, to me, like I wake up in the morning and I turn on my Christmas tree and I turn on my lights, because I can't have fire with my kids being so young. So we have battery operated candles, and I turn them both on. And it's just so beautiful to watch that progression of the lights. You have 5 candles and you start with them all unlit, and you feel the weight of, we are without light and without hope in the unknown of no Jesus. And then when he comes, and then you just, every Sunday, the 4 Sundays going up to Christmas Day, you light a new candle, and then the 5th and final one on Christmas Day. And your heart just becomes more and more expectant as you light those candles. And truly, those two women asked me, what can I do to make Christmas more meaningful? Do an Advent Bible study. Of course, we'd love for you to do one of our sacred holidays. We have 2 different ones on Amazon, and do the candles. And those 2 simple acts put everything in perspective. So then the Spirit is someone you're interacting with, you're going to, so that when you are invited to another party, you are more connected to that check in your spirit of like, maybe I shouldn't say yes to this. And you feel the weight of the priorities of Christ when you're like, maybe I shouldn't spend $300 at Target. Maybe 100 is enough. And you have like that balance in you when you're walking in the Spirit, and it gives you greater clarity, instead of like, I think sometimes as women, Becky, you probably agree with this. A lot of women, we become slaves to our burnout. Like we think that we can't control it. So we're victims to, well, life is just so busy and it's just so overwhelming. And we just like surrender to it. And we say, I'm a victim. And we live like victims to our burnout instead of that we follow a God who created all the earth and parted seas and raised dead people, was in the act of miracles.
Yep.
And we just like fall victim instead.
I know. I want to grab people and be like, there's a better way. Just say no.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just so excited for how this book is going to give so many people freedom to really celebrate the holidays and not, like you said, feel like a victim of them.
Yes.
So something that's really exciting is if all you who are listening head to my Instagram at Becky L McCoy, there is a giveaway of a copy of Sacred Holidays.
Oh, you're the best.
Yeah, Lifeway is so generous in giving away a copy. So head over there and enter, and your Thanksgiving and Christmas can be a little more sacred too.
So fun.
So Becky, where can we find you, and where can we find everything to do with Sacred Holidays, or sign up to host an Advent group?
Yes. So for me, I hang out mostly on Instagram. So at Becky Kiser, Kiser. And I have a website, beckykiser.com. But Sacred Holidays, it's on Instagram at Sacred Holidays. And then sacredholidays.com is where you want to go. So go to sacredholidays.com, enter in your email address on that main page. And that way you won't ever miss an update, because we all miss social media postings.
Yes.
And then from the website, you'll get direction to how you can order the book on Amazon and Lifeway stores, Target.com, Walmart.com, all the places that you could order online. But then also you'll see links to our 2 Advent studies for all, which is an Advent study that's on the story of the Christmas story, starting all the way in the garden, working your way through the birth of Jesus. And then there's also one called He Is, which is an attribute study. So the study on the attributes of God. So you can find both of those are on Amazon, but you can find the links on our website. And then there's a whole page at the top of the website called groups. So you can find out how to host a group, how to join a group. But that is the thing, we are challenging women to choose that over more holiday parties this year, to gather up around tables at a cafe or in homes or in churches with other people and celebrating and studying and worshiping the one who is coming this year.
So great. Thank you so much, Becky.
Thank you for having me on, Becky. I've had such a good time.
So good, right? I really hope that has encouraged you that the holidays can be really wonderful. And maybe some of Becky's awesome ideas for her Thanksgiving will help inspire you. That there can just be really simple things that you do to make it a really special day for you and your family or your friends or whoever you're getting to celebrate with. Check out Sacred Holidays online. They have community online, so many great resources on the website. I love following Sacred Holidays on Instagram especially, and following Becky. They put together some really beautiful visuals, but also such great resources. So definitely check them out and get involved over there. Would you please take a minute and share this episode with someone that you know wants to reset how they approach the holidays? I think that would be a wonderful gift to give the people that you love. And especially if this episode has been really encouraging to you. Come find me on social media at Becky L McCoy and let me know how you're going to celebrate the holidays this year. What changes are you going to make to make it special for you and your loved ones without losing your mind or burning out on what should just be special time? I would love to hear from you. You can always find me at beckylmccoy.com as well. All right, we are taking next week off for Thanksgiving, and I will see you the week after with special episode 60 with my friend Amber Salas, and we're going to talk about burnout and creativity, and it is a good one. She's a real life friend that we could probably talk forever and ever. So, all right, friends, have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I will talk to you in a couple weeks.